Today we're going to be looking at some concepts of working with square tubing as well as angle iron. I'm going to be making a video for y'all to watch at a later time where I actually go out to the shop and make these cuts, but I want you to get the concepts down while we're here. All the pictures I'm going to show you are of 4-inch square boxes. Several different ways we can join these parts together. One way is our standard and simple 45s. So the first way you can do 45s is you can cut 4 pieces of 4-inch long tubing or angle iron at a 45-degree angle on both ends. Make sure that you have one long end and one short end. And then you just put the parts together and square them up. It's a pretty simple, fast, easy way to put parts together, but it's not always our best bet. There are a lot of weak areas because of this. Anytime you have joints in a straight line across from each other, that's a weak point. Now, depending on the direction of force, we bring force in from this side, these 45 degrees are going to hold very strong. But if we have a force coming in at an angle, it's more likely to collapse this than it would with other designs. So we'll look at the other designs that will help eliminate those problems in a few minutes. There is a second way to cut these parts. Instead of cutting 4 individual parts, we could actually cut one 16-inch long part, and then every 4 inches we would come out with a 45. And in order to do that, you would just take your square and you would come in at every 4 inches and you would mark your 45s both directions. And then you could use a cutoff wheel on a grinder, you could use a hacksaw, you could use a bandsaw to cut this notch out. And once all 3 notches are cut out and the 2 ends are 45s, then you just start folding it together and it'll fold all the way around. This piece will end up touching over here and you will have a 4-inch square. This is a stronger setup than cutting individual parts because these areas are never cut apart. They have the original strength. You have to be extremely precise in every cut in order to make them work. So it takes a little more skill, but it is a stronger part. Now our second option is to do away with 45s altogether. And I've got 2 different setups here to show you how this works. This one here is probably your more common layout. You've got 2 parts that are 4 inches long, and then you have to have 2 parts that are 3 inches long. Now on this example, we're going with 3-inch because these are 1/2-inch pieces of tubing. So what you're going to do is take your overall length and subtract the thickness or the width of the material twice to compensate for the fact that you're sticking this part inside the others. So when you do this, you have 2 different measurements, 2 different size parts you're dealing with. There is a simpler way and also a stronger way, and that is to cut all the parts the same size, but what we're going to do now is cut them 1 times the thickness short and then stagger our ends. So we have 4 3.5-inch parts, and then they're staggered, so now our joints are not in line. And as we mentioned earlier, when the joints aren't lined up as well, you've got a lot stronger part. Just like laying in a brick wall, you don't line up the seams of your bricks, you stagger them. So if you can stagger these joints, it makes a stronger part. And then there is our final way. This is coping, and we've been talking about coping in a series of videos. This one is how we cope tubing or angle iron. And what we do is we actually cut out a notch and remove a piece of material that is the same width as our material itself. That way that piece can slide in to this little notch that we've made. What we leave out here is the wall thickness. So in this drawing, I've got a 1/16 inch wall thickness, which means that thickness is going to be added to the length of all my parts. So to stay with our 4-inch wide part minus 1/16, we come up with a 3 15/16 length. And we'll cut all 4 parts at that same length. Notice here we don't have joints lined up. And not only that, we've got a double joint. So it comes down and across. So there's going to be more welding involved in this one. More welding, more heat input. So there's issues that can come from this. But it is a very good way to square up your parts. Because when the squared end of this touches that little tab that we left, it's going to be much stronger fit up and easier to square. So y'all stay tuned, watch the YouTube videos, and we'll actually go out and cut some of these parts. I'll show you the difference in tubing and angle iron. Angle iron has the addition on this part, because it is L-shaped. You don't just cut a full square out. You also have to cut out a notch on the bottom so that it'll slide over this other piece. And that'll make more sense in the video. So y'all pay attention to these designs. Try to figure out the best way to understand the concept that we're looking at in coping and other types of fit out. Coping, once again, is just cutting out a part so that another piece slides into it. And that's all we've done on this drawing. Multiple ways that you can deal with these, and every one of these is right in the right circumstance. And there's other times when there's a better way to do it.